Alright, so we're going to pick up right where we left off in the last video. In the last video we were talking about self-closing elements, and those are elements that consist of just an opening tag and they cannot contain any content or any other elements. I'm going to show you another self-closing element right here, and that's going to lead into our topic for this video. Put your cursor right here after that last paragraph, the closing paragraph tag that we last put on our page in the last video, and I want you to add an IMG element. So go ahead and type in IMG. Now IMG stands for image, so we're going to try and display an image on the page here. So I just simply type IMG, and I'm going to hit tab now to let Sublime Text fill in the rest. But what I want you to notice here is that there's something that we haven't seen yet. First of all, the IMG element is a self-closing element, and you can tell because there is no closing IMG tag here. It's just the opening IMG tag. But what is this stuff? It's showing up as yellow in Sublime Text for me. Well, elements in HTML can have what are known as attributes, and this is an attribute right here. Attributes allow you to add additional information to an image. So for an example, my image element right here, without an attribute, I wouldn't be able to specify exactly which image I wanted to be displayed. So if I took away the attribute here, it would just be saying I want to place an image on the page, but it doesn't specify which image to display on the page. And that is the purpose of this attribute here. Now, the attribute in this case, the name of the attribute is called source, SRC. And what that means is that's short. The attribute is SRC, which is short for source. So the name of the attribute here is SRC, and what we put inside the double quotes here is going to be the location of the picture that we want to display. So there's some syntax we have to discuss here. When you want to add an attribute to an element, first of all, it must go inside the angle brackets. And next you put the attribute name. In this case the name is SRC. After the name comes an equal sign. After the equal sign comes a pair of double quotes, and what we put inside the double quotes is what we say is the value of the attribute. So here we've got a source attribute, and we're going to set its value to the location of the picture that we want to display. Now the picture that we want to display is over here in the images folder. I've included that in your starter files for the course. We'll go ahead and display the eagle image here. So what I want to type in here, now be careful, don't make any typos here. This might look a little strange to you, but this is what I want you to put inside the double quotes for the attribute here. We'll put two dots, two periods, a forward slash, and then we want it to say images. That's our images folder, and then within the images folder we have our eagle.ping image. Okay, now the value of this source attribute is actually a path, and we're going to talk about paths later in the course, but it's the path from this HTML file to the picture that we want to display. You don't have to worry about that so much right now, because what we're really concerned with is attributes. So if you want to display an image in your web page, you need to add a source attribute, or SRC, and you need to set its value to the image that you want to display. Let's go ahead and save this. So press Control S, and then Alt Tab back over to the browser right there, and then hit F5 to refresh, and you should see a big huge picture of an eagle appear. Okay, if you're not seeing it appear, then you may have had a typo in the value of the source attribute there. So make sure you eyeball this really good here, and have it make it say exactly what I have here. Now we can add multiple attributes to our elements. So I'm going to add another attribute to this image element here. To do that, you just line them up one right after the other, but make sure you're still within the closing angle bracket there. So my cursor here is I'm gonna add another attribute here, and it's going to be the width attribute. So I'll type in width. That's the attribute name, and then I'll set it equal to a pair of double quotes, and what I want to put in the double quotes is the value of the attribute. In this case, I want to set the width to 200, so 200 is going to be the value of the width attribute. Now that's pixels, by the way. Let's go ahead and save this. So I'll do Control S and I'll Alt Tab over to the browser, and when I refresh you should see that the eagle is quite a bit smaller now, and so it's 200 pixels in width. The nice thing is all I had to do was specify a width attribute and the browser will automatically determine the height to scale it properly. I didn't have to do any math. So there's an example of another attribute that you might add to an image element. So just to review here, I've got an element that happens to have two attributes. The first attribute name is called the source attribute, or SRC, and its value is set to this path right here. The second attribute is called the width attribute, and we've set its value equal to 200 pixels in this case. So there's a little bit of syntax for you. The attribute name followed by an equal sign, and then the attribute value goes inside of double quotes. Let's go ahead and add one more attribute to this image element here, and it's going to be called the alt attribute, ALT. So the attribute name is alt, ALT. We're going to set that equal to, so I put in the equal sign and then a pair of double quotes. And if you haven't noticed, Sublime Text will put in double quotes in pairs for you, because in programming they always come in pairs. So I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but if you type in one double quote, Sublime Text will automatically add the second one for you. Let's set the value of the alt attribute equal to this, a bald eagle. So the alt attribute should provide a description of the image, and that's for a couple of different cases here. So if I save this and refresh the browser window, I won't see that alt attribute, but let me show you the purpose of it. I'll go back to the code here, and I'm going to fudge the location of the image here. I'm just going to put a typo in here. So there is no image with this name. So this is going to be a broken link to an image here. So if I save that, go back to the browser and hit refresh, you can see my image doesn't appear because I've typed in the wrong name, but I do see the alt attribute appear. So that's one reason for an alt attribute. There's another very important reason for alt attributes, and that is for people who are visually impaired and they can't see your web page. Those people can use certain kind of software that will read the page aloud to them, and the alt attribute will allow those people to understand what your page is about, because although they can't see the picture, the software will look at the alt attribute and read aloud that to give a description of the image. So you should always include an alt attribute when you add an image to a web page. And there's a lot more going. There's a big story behind all that, but it'd be a big no-no for you to add an image to a web page and not include the alt attribute. So back here in Sublime Text, I'm going to fix my typo there so my image will show up properly on the page. I've got one more element that I want to share with you, and then we'll be done with this lesson. This was a big lesson. It took me 4 videos to put this lesson together. So anyways, we're going to scroll on up to the head element, and we're going to add an element inside of the head here. So put your cursor after the closing title tag and hit return to start a new line. And the element that I want you to add is going to be the link element. So just type in LINK like that and then hit tab. And now look at what happened here. Sublime Text inserted 3 separate attributes, all with that link element. Now what we're trying to do here is we're going to try and link to a style sheet. And that's what this attribute indicates. It's the rel, the name of the attribute is rel, and its value is set to style sheet. That tells the browser that we're trying to link to a style sheet. You can ignore this attribute. Now we don't have to worry about this I don't want to waste your time talking about it. But anyways, the attribute name is type, and it's set to a value of text/CSS. But the third attribute is one that we're interested in. Now this is the name of the attribute is href, and Sublime Text didn't fill in a value for it because we need to provide the value. When you want to link to a style sheet, you use the href attribute to say where the style sheet is located. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set the value of the href attribute to this. 2 dots, just like we did before with the eagle picture, and a /, and then I want you to type in styles, that, and then /, and then sample.css. Okay, now that's the path to our style sheet. So we'll go ahead and save here, Control S, Alt Tab over to the browser and hit refresh. And now you should notice that some colors have changed on your page, and that's because we're linking to a style sheet. Now we are going to learn about style sheets in the CSS unit of this course, but style sheets are what you can use to spice up your page with visuals such as colors and all sorts of other cool things, but we'll get to that later. But for now, I just want you to understand what attributes are for elements. And you just have to learn about the different types of attributes that you can use for different elements. And that just comes with experience. But you do need to recognize attributes when you see them in the code, because we'll be using lots of them moving forward. Okay, I think that'll do it for this lesson. This was a big one for us, and sorry that it's so long, but I wanted to tackle all this in one single lesson. And that's why I broke it up into separate videos. So